battery ran flat at the end of that previous episode, which was on Brazil. So this is Brazil part 2 now. But where I was headed in that previous episode, because I had given my example, but I hadn't provided my wrap up that nobody wants to hear anyway, but I don't care. I'm just doing this for myself. And the wrap up was going to be that old comment that if you're in the elite in a society, you can hug yourself that you've done the right thing, with the idea that you've done the right thing, if you've made a very strong law about something. You know, if you've made a very strong law that prohibits something bad, you can say, I've been good because I've made a very strong law that prohibits something bad. And in Brazil, I think it's the case, having had a look at Bolsonaro's cabinet, I googled for a photo of Bolsonaro's cabinet members, and white people all the way along the line, about 40 of them, and sort of a brownish bloke on the end. But you can hug yourself if you're in the elite, because I heard someone sent me a clip of some Brazilian woman 30 years ago or something hugging herself, and she was white, so what, but she was hugging herself with the idea that statistically Brazil was and is now incredibly mixed, racially, incredibly mixed. No, not like in other lands like the United States of America, and also she was hugging herself with the idea that Brazil had very, very strong anti-discrimination and anti-segregation laws, and which all sounded great. She was right. Brazil, heavily mixed, quite freely. Black and brown people were encouraged to marry white people and all that sort of stuff. So it does seem like a utopia, on the surface, and she was hugging herself with that idea. But then, just because you've made a law that encourages, a law that says thou shalt not discriminate, and thou shalt not segregate, and thou shalt get it on as much as you possibly can with all sorts of different races and all that sort of stuff, just melting pot that thing, just because you've got all of that going, doesn't mean that you've done anything. And I think that's the case in Brazil. I read the United Nations report, which said Brazil did, for many years, hug itself with that idea that they had achieved things that other nations hadn't, and they had, around equality in law and all that sort of stuff. But if you Google Bolsonaro's cabinet right now, they're all white as white can be, reflecting not at all this wonderful racial mixing, this melting pot thing that's gone on in Brazil. Apparently, the elite in Brazil is still as white can be, with exceptions, of course. I'm not on Facebook, so I don't have to worry about that comment, with exceptions, of course, because if I was on social media, apparently, you make a generalization, and there's nothing wrong with generalizations. Intelligent people make generalizations, because they're generally true, with exceptions. But on Facebook, if I was on Facebook, what they do is someone puts up an example and says, oh, I'm in the elite in Brazil, and look at my skin colour, so you're wrong. That's Facebook logic, apparently. You just need one case, to prove a generalisation wrong, which is just nuts. All right, so I finished my point in the end. Just because you make a law outlawing something doesn't mean you've done anything. In fact, it can be the opposite, actually. You can make a law and that says thou shalt not do all these bad things, and that can almost provide you with ground cover to do all those bad things, because you can keep pointing to that law whilst you keep doing all the bad things. It provides you with ground cover. We did that in Australia. We hug ourselves with a few ideas of how wonderful we are, because we were the first country on the planet in history. We beat them all. The ancient Egyptians, everybody, we were the first country on the planet to provide full political rights for women. The right to vote and the right to stand for office. And we kind of like ourselves for that. But then we didn't get our first female prime minister for 100 years or so, and that was only in a party room spill, I think. Hey, how are you? Yeah, g'day. Hey. Hello. You shouldn't talk to yourself when your neighbours are coming home. End of episode.